how do you cope with unhappiness when God asks you to stay in the midst of sin and ignorance, and it seems to never change and only get worse every day? And that's Julie. So maybe she's in a situation where that's impacting her own spiritual life, but she seems to be not able to get out of that situation.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, you're going to have to be sort of a force of non-sin and non-ignorance, Julie, in the midst of, I'm taking it that you're probably surrounded maybe by your colleagues or something's going on in your family that really is kind of a persistent, viewpoint of real sin and ignorance of God, and even kind of a gleeful rejoicing in that sin and ignorance. And of course, it is an extremely upsetting thing. But Jesus tries to counsel us here. He says, don't throw your pearls before swine, right? And of course, today we might think, well, wow, that's a really harsh image, right?
Right, exactly.
But in point of fact, what he's trying to say there is, there's so much convincing you can do, right? And then eventually you have to be your own person, and you have to, start taking solace from your religious community, right? And start looking, and maybe you go to church on Sundays. Maybe it would be possible, to get to that religious community, to do some things, and to surround yourself with what I would call level 3 and level 4 friends a little bit more. And sometimes we really do have to reach out, maybe do something if we can on the weekdays, or maybe if we have a chance to go to Mass with a community of people that are more level 3 and 4 during weekdays as well as weekends. Maybe it would be, to join a community service group or something of that nature. But I think the main thing is, if you really feel you're surrounded by sin and ignorance all the time, you're going to have to expand if you can. I know some situations very, very difficult indeed when you have a lot of kids and things of that nature, but also to expand that group of friends, and then to try and get that new group of friends, invite maybe your family members or some of your colleagues into that new group of friends, which may present them with ideas that don't come from you. Remember, familiarity breeds contempt, right?
Right.
So around your family, well, it's just Julie who's saying this. So sometimes having that ability to bring, people into a new group of level 3 and level 4 friends can advance them. But if they just resist, if they ridicule it, if they think they know so much, the old Jewish expression, right? Look who knows so much. At the end of the day, you kind of have to not throw your pearls before swine. You're going to have to basically let them lapse a little bit until they're ready to hear.
Right.
And you might think to yourself, well, when are they ready to hear? When they suffer. And of course, there's two ways that, people are not going to be immune from suffering forever. They can either take that suffering and turn it into despondency, and that would be a very unfortunate thing, because that's going to lead to the end result of people really getting depressed and into despair and into real violent anger towards others. That's not good. But if suffering, and suffering always holds out this potential, if suffering can take a person who's just been a real rat and a real arrogant person who has built their lives around level 1 and level 2, right? And you're thinking to yourself, I hope they get their comeuppance. You don't want them to get their comeuppance. What you want them to do is take that suffering and go, oh my gosh, I was wrong. I need something more in my life. Somehow I've built my house. I've built a house of cards, and it's collapsing. And then you're there to be the support. You're there to hold out something like, I'm begging you to pray with me.
Right.
Let's just pray together and let God lead us out of this.
And that's important.
Which, of course, can change lives.
And that's important, as you mentioned, because it's easy sometimes, even though we think we're doing the right thing, when somebody's suffering, sometimes we don't always are so quick to reach out that hand. We like to see them maybe dangle and suffer for a little while to, make up for past, transgressions against us. And also, I'm wondering too, is also in her case, maybe by being with those level 3 people, that will give her the strength maybe to deal better when she's in those work and other environments. So possibly some of that doesn't affect her as much as it might have before.
Oh, absolutely, Doug. I mean, that's precisely the fact. The more we choose our friends carefully. In other words, we choose people who are contributive, we choose people who are religious, we choose people who share our higher values, and we have good community with them on a regular basis. It really does tone down the pressures we feel from being, as you put it, Julie, surrounded by sin and darkness.
Right, exactly.
So it really makes a huge difference. But don't let them dangle there. I mean, so easy to say, you made your bed, sleep in it. Don't do that. Jesus says, no, just try and help them. You don't want them going to despondency. You want them going to God.
Right, exactly. That's what the year of mercy, I think, is all about, what our Holy Father is really talking about.